Hello, and thank you for listening. My name is Luke Mardigian, and you are listening to Be Insured, where we talk about business, leadership, and insurance. That way, on your worst day, when you need it the most, you will be insured. Why aren't you landing the sale? Yeah, I'm talking to you, listener. Why aren't you landing the sale specifically? Could a few common mistakes be the reason why you're not closing the deal with clients? As a guy who spent a decade selling to people, I can tell you I've seen just about every sales strategy in the book. I've been told that there's 13 different ways to close. I've heard it all. I've listened to all the gurus. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars in sales systems, and I have a pretty good idea of what works and what doesn't work. And during this episode, we'll dig into the common reasons you're struggling to land the sale and what you need to do instead to start selling authentically and successfully. And we're excited to be joined by my special guest,
Richard Shull, and
my awesome co-host,
Eric Gestring, the Mardigian Agency.
Richard, I just saw this fun sliding scale is on, one of the forums that we both share on a Facebook group. The notes call you a business coach, consultant. I don't know if there's a difference, but as a business coach, what are some of the common pitfalls your clients run into that keep them from landing the business?
Yeah, I think one of the big things with sales, right, is sales has kind of become a dirty word. Let's be honest. Right. Even for people who love sales, there's a little bit of a misperception. And I think the reason is because a lot of people think, based on bad models, that sales is a type of manipulation, right?
Yes.
It's kind of manipulating people to do what you want them to do. And for me, sales is one of the most empowering things that you can do if done correctly and authentically. And we'll talk a little bit about what that is, but I think it starts as a mindset issue, and then it also manifests as a practical issue where people have learned out-of-date tactics that don't apply to the market anymore. People have to understand that tactics are based on very specific timetables and they expire. They really do. And so a lot of times people are operating off of outdated paradigms and tools and tactics that used to work in a different market with a different avatar and just aren't nearly as effective anymore. And they actually have long-term repercussions on your mindset and the way your market perceives you when it's done incorrectly.
And what I've seen is, and we talked about this, the very best business coaches or sales coaches or consultants, whatever, are practitioners because they're not teaching you what made them successful. Like one of my favorite public speakers successfully turned around a Ford dealership in the 70s. And he's been publicly speaking on that for 50 years. And I'm like impressed that he's been able to stretch that for so long, right? But like, I don't know if he could run a car dealership today. And that's not a knock on him. It's just, it's totally different world.
Yeah,
internet sales and all that. And so you see people hiring business coaches who sold, whatever successfully 20 years ago and haven't actually had to learn what the market's asking for and demanding today. And so you end up with people asking things like, so tell me how you got that account. Give me the tactics. You're the one who taught me this. Give me the tactics and the strategies. That's all I care about. Just give me but how did you do that? That's what I hear all the time. But how? And it's not about the how to start.
Yeah, so true. And to elaborate on that, because I know this is where we're going, one of the things that I think is most important in sales is actually identity. It really is. Yeah. And you teach on this so well in your process, Luke, but like, who you show up as to a sales conversation matters so much more than what tactics you deploy. Like people sense that. They resonate with that. And sales at the end of the day is an exchange of energy. That's it. And so people actually either they resonate with you on an energetic level or they don't. And at the end of the day, you can prove through the data that people make emotional sales decisions. They're 100% emotional.
So true.
It's 100% emotional. Yep. And so at the end of the day, the best tactics in the world, if it's used with the intent to try to manipulate someone, people will pick up on that. Yep. Or the people you do close will be like very unself-aware and probably a bummer to work with.
Yeah.
Right.
Just to be real.
Well, and that's where sales scripts, I paid a good chunk of change for a coach of life insurance. And I had Eric, I wasn't having any success. So I had Eric, I'm like, dude, sit in on this call and see what I'm doing wrong. Like I don't know how I'm not selling. Like I'm good at selling. So why is this not working? And my coach says this works. Well, it became the perception of these very sophisticated, because we were targeting a very professional group, it became their awareness that I didn't have, that I was trying to manipulate them by using a sales script that was not true to my identity.
Right.
And over the phone or Zoom, which is, the world is...
you can see it.
It's so much more obvious because you don't have like the picture of the kid in the background or the nice suit right in front of you where you can see the sheen and you can impress them and kind of like do the, there's no man behind the curtain act. It's all what you say.
Yeah, my success has been 100% genuine, intimate conversation.
To a fault, right? Like we've had to like move you away from like, don't be yourself so much on sales calls.
Because I'm not professional. I'm more relational than I am that. So I have to stay on track. Otherwise I can sit there and talk to a client for 3 hours sometimes and stay at their house.
And it's like you're not going to scale that successfully. It's going to kill you long term.
So I have to be aware, and thank God Luke's kind of aware of that and, rope me in a lot on that, and I've gotten better. But
it's super common amongst interpersonal people. It's like you just want to hear about their cat for an hour. Like you want to, because that's who you are.
The intimacy and the genuine relationship and authenticness coming from you is the relationship trigger.
Yeah.
Well, it's emotional, and it makes them want to do it. So
let me share real quick a paradigm that I think will be helpful for some people listening, because if sales isn't manipulation, then what is it? Right? And a couple things I think that gets missed in the sales process that's very important to define sales as. So one of the things I like to say is that sales is empathy. It's empathy.
Yeah.
It's actually deeply connecting with the people you're selling to, their painful problems, their outcomes that they're looking for, their promised land, as I like to call it, and really understanding those at a deep level, because people buy when they feel understood. That is,
Amen.
And people don't when they feel manipulated.
Yeah.
So the first role in becoming better at landing the sale is to get really good at marinating in empathy with your perfect patron, knowing what their pain points are, and then even marinating in that empathy through great questioning in your sales process, right? The second thing sales is sales is prophecy. And that might be a strange word for some people, sound almost biblical, but prophecy is simply just speaking someone's future, right?
Yeah.
And you're actually getting people to prophesy in the sales process when you get them talking about their vision, about what they want, about the outcomes they're looking for. Yeah. And then you're actually feeding that back and repeating that back to them. That's actually creating a connection with them as well, where they can see this future outcome that they want to get to, and their vision becomes greater than their problem, which is what motivates people to action, right?
Right.
Most people focus just on pain and problem in the sales process.
I was going to say the fear,
right?
They focus on the fear.
They focus on fear, but actually a much greater motivator for a lot of people is their vision. So if you can tap into that and help them realize that by presenting what you do as a bridge out of their painful problem and into their promised land, they will want to work with you. And that's the third part of what sales is. So it's empathy, it's prophecy, and then it's leadership. And leadership is calling people and challenging them in light of where they want to go and where they're currently stuck to actually take the steps they need to take with you. And your product and your process only makes sense when it is positioned as a bridge out of someone's painful problem and into their promised land and the outcome they want.
That's so good.
Yeah. Well, so the prophesy, that seems like I'm gonna preach up in here, right? But Russell Brunson, Funson, in Expert Secrets talks about just encouraging their dreams. I mean, that's really what you're doing, right?
100%.
And people will always buy from somebody who encourages their dreams.
Yeah.
Because it's so rare.
Yeah, it's so rare.
It's just so rare.
Richard, I want you to speak to the audience here about how much success in selling is tied to the mindset. A person's mindset, how crucial is that?
100% tied. And one of the best mindset, if you do want some tactics for the very tactical people listening, a great mindset tactic walking into your sales process, and I do this every time, is I actually picture myself like a doctor. So I actually put my doctor hat on, I put my stethoscope on, and before I ever walk into a sales conversation, my mindset is I'm a doctor, right? The person coming to me has a painful problem that they need solved. And my only job, a doctor's only job, is to diagnose the problem and prescribe a solution. That's a doctor's job. Yep. Okay. So that positions you, as an expert instead of a vendor. A big mindset problem a lot of people have is they see themselves as a vendor, and they're really selling a product, right? They're trying to compete with other people and tell people why their product is better. That's a horrible position to be in a sales process. What you want to come to the table as is not as a vendor, but as a trusted advisor. As an expert,
I was just going to say,
right?
As an advisor.
And that doctor frame and mindset has been so helpful for me. I'm a doctor. The person coming to me has a painful problem. My only job, my responsibility as a doctor is to diagnose the problem and prescribe a solution.
And at that point, you're not pushy, right? That's that fear that a lot of salespeople have is, I'm coming across pushy, or they're going to think I'm coming across pushy. If you have that mindset, it doesn't exist.
Well, the problem is that trusted advisor, that phrase is just like systems is thrown out so often. And what most people interpret that is convince them that you're the very best.
Right.
Hey, I'm a trusted advisor. So here's why I take classes. I read books. I'm amazing. My company's amazing. This is why my company's amazing. This is why I'm amazing. This is why my office is amazing. I'm a trusted advisor. And it's like, no, dude, like you didn't give any advice at all. Right. All you did is try to convince them that you're amazing. And I fell into this trap too. Like I'm not saying that I didn't. Most people do. And it comes from what we started with is identity.
Yeah.
Right? It's you're borrowing someone told you that that's the way you advise. And no, I've never had, I don't know, maybe you guys have, but I've never had a doctor come in and go, here's the classes that I've taken and this is where I graduated in my class and this is what my GPA was and I specialized in this and my fellowship was here and my residency was, they don't say that. They walk in and they go,
let's get to work.
So what's going on today? Right?
And let's take this to the nth degree. You ready? If you actually want to walk this out, it means sometimes you're going to need to tell people up front that you can't help them. Right?
100%.
It means that sometimes you're going to need to actually have the balls, sorry for being a little crude on here, to tell people that the way they're doing things is wrong.
Or
right?
you're not
it's
a good
not
fit.
serving them.
Yeah.
I was on a call with someone just this last week, and I literally remember they were telling me something about what they believed and what they stood for, and then they talked about something, a tactic they were doing
and it
that was
contradicted
completely contradictory to what they told me they valued before. And on the call, most people would go risk the scale. I said, I can't believe what you just told me is completely contradictory to what you just said. How do you reconcile that? And I just waited, and they were like, oh, and they backpedaled a bunch. Well, what's funny is in this specific scenario, great end story, they actually ended up doing business with me. But like I have given up sales before because personally, I actually don't want to work with someone who does not care about their integrity.
Right.
That actually doesn't fit my perfect patron, my profile. Right. And so you got to be willing to stand in your authority and in your integrity. And that's going to make you so much more powerful in the sales process. I can't remember who wrote this book. It's a sales book, but he talks about how the most powerful frame in sales is moral authority. Right? It's the idea of moral authority. That's actually the most powerful frame in sales. And I think it's even higher than that because a lot of times people see that as a tactic, which is like, oh, I'm doing what's in your best interest.
Yeah.
No, actually do what's in their best interest.
Right.
Actually do it.
Whether they want it or not.
Actually do it.
I think it's beautiful that you brought up the fact that you should say no to people that don't fit that perfect client. Yep. How much have we hit on that in the last like 3 years?
Well, that's what, that was, I think for us, the moment where I was able to accept our inefficiencies and actually go to work on it was because, I was dreaming of a $10 million book of business, which is in mid-Michigan, a sizable book that would be the biggest, at least in our company by 2-3 times. And then I realized I don't want a $10 million book. I want a $6 million book
of good clients.
Nothing but perfect patrons who are going to actually see me as a trusted advisor, value what we bring to the table, understand that our process is not about the sale, but it's about them and protecting them and properly diagnosing where their actual risk is. Actual risk. Not the risk that they read of in some article or the risk that they got from Dave Ramsey or the risk that my company says I should protect them from, but their actual risk. And I think that concept, accepting the fact that I'm going to turn a lot of people away, took it's like a gorilla off my back.
So true.
Because it's like no pressure. Yeah. And so the challenge in our industry, in the insurance world, is that we have the, I can't remember it now, but we can't turn people away. We have to offer insurance if they ask for it. We have to provide a quote. But
you can do that and still accomplish our goal.
Well, if that's the case, if I have to by law and they're telling me that they don't want to take my advice, then they have to sign a waiver. Here's a release. What do you mean? I don't want to get sued because you're not listening to my advice. You have risk. You're going to lose everything if you're in a car accident because you have state minimum limits. Yep. Sign this and then we'll be okay. So even in industries where you can't turn away because your boss maybe, like some people are in positions where they're in sales and their bosses make them sell.
Right.
Like, you're going to sell this product. I don't care what you say.
Or what it takes.
No. Yeah, or what it takes. I don't care if you lie. I don't care about anything, and it's like, well, first of all, if you're in that position, come work for me. You will not be in that position. But two, that release of liability or some type of documentation saying, look, you are going directly against my advice and you can't sue me if you get screwed is huge.
And let's just speak to the people who are in that position. If you're in that position, I guarantee you're not maximizing your potential, your sales potential. Figure out a place and a product that you can passionately stand behind and feel 100% convicted and congruent about. Guys, 80% of sales is the way you show up to the sales process, from a place of conviction, from a place of authority, and how you show up from a place of identity. 20% is the tactics.
Yeah.
20%
that's
is the
sales
tactics.
boiled down right there.
Yep. And 100% of the gurus out there focus on tactics.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so much more than that, guys. Back your whole system up, start working in identity, start looking at whether your systems are actually scalable or not, and what you believe, because at the end of the day, the clients are going to buy what you believe. So Richard, how can people connect with you?
Yeah, if you want, we have a free training on how to scale past 7 figures using the power of systems and team. You can go to go.unleashed.academy to access that for free. Go.unleashed.academy.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Be Insured.